and you thought vinyl left. You're listening to the Vinyl Community Podcasts. Everything vinyl.
So yes, everyone, do not attempt to adjust your set. We are in complete control tonight. Yes, Chance has given up the keys to the kingdom tonight, and the inmates are basically running the asylum today, so that should be fun. I'm Jason. If you don't recognize me, I'm from the Spinz Vinyl channel. I am thrilled to be your host on this very special B-side, inaugural B-side edition of Surface Noise. And the good news is, we still have a very familiar cast of characters this evening. And of course, I'm talking about the vinyl community royalty that you see on your screen right now, whether they want to admit it or not. So the reason I'm here tonight is on Surface Noise, on the Surface Noise off week, is because Chance wanted to make Surface Noise a weekly show. And so he came up with this idea for an A-side, B-side. And I said, oh, sounds fun. So that's why you have me for the foreseeable future hosting every other week on Chance's off weeks. And of course, Chance will still be doing his thing on his regular weeks as well. So I hope to do the show justice. And of course, it helps to have great guests. So without further delay, please allow me to introduce you to this beautiful motley crew that you see before you. Arnaldo, how's it going, man?
Hey guys, how's it going? Hey Jason.
Doing good. Great to see you.
And David.
Yep.
And Jason.
Arnaldo. Yeah.
Brandon, welcome back, my friend. Good to see you.
Thank you very much. Always great to be here with the familiar cast. Always great.
And David Bianco, welcome. Good to see you again.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And Deep Thought, Jason Roxas in the house. What's up, baby?
Thanks for having me on for another week. You know, I'll be tame this week, I promise.
This is the week to not be tame. Oh, man. So we got a fun little lineup for you today, tonight. And a few things we want to talk about. One is, and I'll kind of kick it off here at the beginning, but the whole idea of, is that OG? And the difference between an OG and a reissue. When is it appropriate to buy one or the other? It was kind of funny that Chance actually came out and was hanging out in Portland last week. We went to about 5 record stores, and without fail, someone would hold up a record. The first question would be, is that OG? I'd hold up a record. Is that OG? His son would hold up a record. Is that OG? It was like all 3 of us. That was the first question. So it just got me thinking, like, that's pretty funny. Why is that a thing? And then we're going to talk Black Sabbath Rhino reissue. Probably going to lean on Mr. Rojas a little bit on that one. I know he's got one. He's done a little shootout for that one. And then we're going to do a game which I hope is fun. It's called Smash or Pass. And so we're going to do that. And when we get to it, I'll explain what that is. And and then we'll jump into the freestyle. So, is that OG? Let me see. Boom. So like I said, it was kind of funny because without fail, even his son was doing it. Like Chance would hold up a record and his son would be like, is that OG? So it just got me thinking, because it's kind of funny because we talk a lot about reissues and stuff like that. And it's like, what makes you decide that you're going to grab an OG? Is it more of a record store thing? Are you just not interested in reissues at the record store? You're shaking your head, David. What do you think?
Well, OG is probably the most abused term in the VC, in my opinion.
Okay.
Because here's the bottom line. Some people think it's an OG because of the cover, but the record that might be inside of it is not, in fact, an OG. You may actually have a label that you think is like a palm tree Warner Brothers instead of a green, and it depends on when the pressing plant changed labels. So there's a lot of variability, and it always comes down to the dead wax. It always comes down to the dead wax. So don't be fooled by cheap imitation covers. You can be misled. Some covers are worth something more than others in and of themselves, but they don't always match. Have you ever taken a record out and actually had the different album in it? I've had that happen before. So the point to me is original to me means more like first pressing, early pressing before represses. So to me, you got to go to the dead wax all the time.
So when you're at if you're out in the wild, you're at a record store, you find something. Are you checking out the dead wax, and are you on Discogs looking it up?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep. If that's what I'm looking for, then I want to make sure that, I know where it was birthed, if I can tell the pressing plant, and if I can tell what series it was, A1, B1, whatever it might be, to know whether or not it was an early plate or not.
Wow. There you go. That's awesome. That's going the extra mile. What about you, Jason? First of all, is that whole wall behind you, is that all OG? Okay, I thought so.
No, this is that's a reissue, right? It never came out. What am I doing? Let's just bring it down. This never came out on vinyl until Record Store Day. So I guess.
So then it isn't a reissue technically.
It's a repress on vinyl, right? I think that's the term.
Press on vinyl. There's no
First vinyl pressing, I guess.
First vinyl pressing.
First vinyl pressing. There you go.
Okay.
Let's get our English correct, guys.
Come on, Jason.
I got to do the chance part. I got to do the chance part for the visually impaired because of the podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Right. Sorry. So this is the Verve. This is a collection of B-sides that were not. That I think at that time in the early '90s they were released on CD, and that was it. That was like the only way you can get it. But this past Record Store Day they put it out on vinyl, but you can only get it from the UK and Europe. So it was not.
It is an OG.
Sure, I guess.
If it's the first pressing of that record, it's an OG.
So I think Jason Spinz is right. I think I only have originals, on my wall.
You're an original, Jason. We know that.
Yeah, sure, David. But I mean, I have to say, like this one right here. Let me pull this one. This is that infamous record, the John Mayall and the Blues Breakers with Eric Clapton. I believe this originally came out in '66 on the Decca label in the UK, but it's a little bit different. This is actually the '68 repress, okay? And I could only tell by the label, not necessarily the dead wax, because I think the dead wax is the same. It's actually the label that's slightly different. But I mean, in my opinion, when I go to a store, is it reissue or OG? It just depends on what I'm looking for, I think at the point, like if the OG is at 500, like should you buy that if you have the money, or should you get the reissue? I think that's the question, right?
So money definitely plays into it, yeah.
Sure. This is a first Canadian press of Heartstream Bonanni. I've been trying to get a Canadian copy, and because it's the best sounding one I've heard actually. So, you got to know what to look for.
Yep, absolutely. So, Jason, then when you're out in the wild, are you checking matrices as well?
Not necessarily, unless it's hardcore.
Yeah.
If it's something like I can't identify the label, so it's like the opposite of what David would do, But I had studied the labels in the '90s, and I don't know, like instead of working on my reading assignments, I was looking at the collector's price guide and be like, the Warner Brothers label here changed. They added the
that
W
explains a lot right there.
At 1975. So that would mean Gord's Gold, according to these numbers, Gord's Gold should be the one where they added the W, and that's the identifier,
Sure.
So I mean, the fact that I know this and I'm saying this, I have,
But that's a very special niche kind of thing, right?
Oh yes.
Yeah, and even those aren't always OGs in the sense that they maybe weren't the first pressing, but an error was made later.
Correct.
That
so I'm so crazy that I would know that the Reprise Tricolor label ended in '68, right? And then they switched to the W7R, like at the tail end of '68. So this is how crazy I am. I know this.
Mm-hmm. That's funny. I mean, when I'm at home in the comfort of my house and I'm on Discogs and I'm out there doing all my due diligence. When I'm in the wild, I'm way less critical. Like if I see something and it's obviously an early pressing and it's something I'm interested in and it's clean, I'm kind of like, yes, I'm going to grab it. But I have been burned because I got a US pressing of something that I got home and looked it up because it did not sound good. And I found out the hard way that even though it was OG, it was not the one to get. So it was like,
do you actually look it up at the store, or you're going by, what they've written on the record, if there was any information on it, or?
I usually don't look it up in the store.
Okay.
I might on occasion, but if it's something, at least if I know it's something that is early, then I might grab it. I mean, certain labels, you can at least get the era, right? On like Zeppelin and Hendrix and stuff like that. And that's kind of what I'm looking at. It's like, okay, this is the first version. I'm cool with it. Let's try it. It rarely, it might be the first pressing, but I don't go to that extent in the store.
Okay.
What about you, Brandon? Oh, sorry, Jason.
No, I'm just saying I'm so crazy that in 1974 on the Atlantic, they switched to the 75 Rockefeller address label. So I'm so crazy. I know that, Okay. Sorry, Brandon, go.
That's dedicated. That's not crazy. You're a dedicated man. Yeah, if I'm out in the wild and I'll go and start looking at the Matrix and all that type of stuff, but only if that piece being an OG actually matters. Because maybe I already have a copy of something and I would upgrade to an OG if I, with this particular piece. So then I'll dive into the Matrix. But if it's just like an album that I want, I really don't. I probably don't really care that much. Like the number one thing to me is always condition. I don't care, reissue, OG, that type of thing. Condition comes number one. But I would say after 20 something years of collecting, and this is just kind of for me personally, because I always say that the way that anyone does their collecting, you're doing it the right way. If you walk into your room and go, this is awesome. Like if you're saying that about your collection, you're doing it right. So screw whatever anybody else says about what you should have, what you shouldn't have, and blah, blah, blah. But for me, it's kind of like after so many years of collecting and being around albums for so long, there's just this gut feeling that comes over me when I think about an album and I think, I have to have an OG of that. I have to have the reissue of that. I don't care which one I have of that one. I have to have both of this one. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. My collector gut, because we're music lovers and we're also collectors of music stuff. Like both of those entities are kind of existing together. There's just something in my gut that just says, I want an OG of that and I will settle for nothing less. And I can't explain why. I only want a Walmart reissue of that. And I don't care about, I have no idea why that did. It's just, so that's how I tend to roll when it comes to, OG, not OG, that type of thing. But yeah, like I said, if there is something where OG is very important to me, right there in the wild, I'm stepping off into the side. Like David was saying, I'm looking at the Matrix and, making sure it's exactly what it says it is and all of that, and then kind of going from there.
I got you. Yep. All right, Arnaldo, you're up.
Well, I'm kind of like on the same line as Brandon, because first thing I check is how does it look visually? So if it's beat up, I'm not even going to get into
it. Why even? Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah. I do tend to lean more towards, for certain records, more towards the OG. Like, for example, when I'm at a fair or at a store, I don't even bother looking at the jazz bins. I've said this before. I don't know that much about pressings. So I'm kind of like, I'm perfectly fine with a Blue Note, with Blue Note Classic Series, a Tone Poet, all of these acoustic sound series. I'm fine with those when it comes to jazz. When it comes to classic rock, 80s especially, I tend to go mostly only for originals. And pretty much also for the 70s. The 60s, there are some pretty killer reissues that have come out and remasters that sound better than the way they were done in the 60s, obviously. I haven't had a chance to listen to that many Beatles original monos, like from the UK. But honestly, if I did find them at an affordable price, I probably would pick up a few. But when it comes to like the purchase and I've decided, okay, I want to get this, yes, I pull out my app, my phone, and I check the Matrix to see what version it is. If I can't tell immediately from the label, judging on when labels got switched or whatever. And a few times I was so confident and I realized only when I got home, oh man, this is a club pressing. The jury's still out regarding the club pressings. I haven't actually want to actually compare club pressings versus original of that time, because sometimes it's the same plate, other times it's not. But yeah, a few times I was more kind of like enthusiastic of just finding it, and I realized only when I got home, the CRC in the back, or time, actually, it is so hard to catch because it's in the last two lines manufactured by, for example, Columbia House under license from. So sometimes it's really hard to see. And we all know the lighting in some of these stores.
Oh yeah,
potentially bad.
You get home, you're like, where did all these scratches come from?
I know exactly.
On the car ride home,
especially some record fairs that are done in these halls where they're not meant for people that are squinting at a matrix in a record. They're really hard to catch, certain glare with the glare and everything, to the point where sometimes I just take a picture and I magnify it so that I can see it better.
That's funny.
It's funny.
And one more thing, and if very important, and typically this is only at record stores that I'm pretty more comfortable with. They actually have a turntable and a horrible preamp and an even worse headphone set. That
BYOH, man, BYOH.
I was going to say,
I have actually visually looked at a record, played it, and I'm like, well, this has a little bit, has so much surface noise. Then I bring it home and it sounds so much better. So there's records that I've left behind because when I play tested them, they didn't sound very good, only to know that maybe their system kind of sucked. So you never know.
Yep. Yeah, it's true. I was going to say on the club pressing thing is that I remember I had a Live Dead double LP from 60, whenever they came out, 69 or whatever. And I purposely wanted to get an OG press of it, so I bought one online. I got it, and it just had surface noise. It sounded great sonically, but it had surface noise and all this stuff. And so I had a club pressing already. And so I did like a little shootout and just kind of played them back to back. And they were so close. I mean, it was obvious that it was the same mix and everything. The only thing I could even say about it was that the original was just slightly punchier. And I know that's probably like, we've all kind of maybe had an experience like that. Is just a little more there than like on the club press. But it took me having to listen to them side by side to really notice that. You know what I mean? I could listen to a club record and enjoy it. Of course, like everything else in the world, every title is going to be different. But for that album specifically, it was like, okay, the club was really good.
Yeah, I found generally the RCA club are better than the Columbia House ones. I mean, when you look at the cut on a RCA, it's a very deep etched cut. And I mean, I don't know where they were exactly cutting them. I think Indianapolis. And I found 9 out of 10 of those blew away 3 out of 10 of the Columbia House. Only 7 out of 10 of Columbia House were decent, whereas 9 out of 10 were in RCA or BMG. So even that makes a difference.
Wow. Yep, we're all crazy. I mean, hey, just use Spotify. It's so much easier.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll keep it going. I know Chance says he was trying to keep this first part down to an hour. So we're actually really good on time. So who wants to kick us off on, let me get the right banner up here, on the Black Sabbath Rhino reissue? Jason, I think you said that you did a shootout on that recently.
Let me go get it. That's right.
Okay. Has anyone else picked that up?
I'm waiting on mine. Still, I got to notice. We're sorry we're late. Here's a discount code to buy more things we're going to ship late.
Let's keep it going. Keep it going.
Wow. I'm sorry, David. Whoa, that's heavy. So when did they send you the shipping notice? I mean,
I never got a shipping notice.
Oh, you never did?
And I ordered it the first day.
Oh, wow.
So I got a customer service thing from Rhino and a Warner Music thing with the discount code.
Yeah, which is not going to work when you go try and use it.
That's okay.
So this is the Rhino reissue
There it
that
is.
was supposed to come out, like last week, 2 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago.
What number was yours, by the way? Did you notice?
No, I don't know.
Okay. Mine is like 4,000 something.
Okay.
I think mine is around like 1,300 or something. Let me see if I can get this. But this is
Mine's
the Rhino
being pressed as
reissue.
we speak.
Right. Yeah.
It's got a lot of hype on it, right? Like, did anyone else on the panel other than David get this finally or ordered it?
Arnaldo just showed it.
I just showed it. Well, yeah, while you were
Okay.
getting yours, I got mine too.
Okay. So
Yeah, that was one of those ones for me that I have an OG, and I didn't get hyped about hearing about the reissue. So at this point, I'm still planning on not even getting it.
So you stayed strong, right? Discipline.
Which OG do you have? Do you have the Greenie or the Vertigo?
The Greenie. Oh, I wish I had the yeah, that'd be nice. But yeah, I have the Greenie.
I never see Vertigos of that title. It's always the later ones, the next few. Oh, here he goes.
So I got a shout out to Chris Vinyl Piper. So we're doing a video with the shootout. That's coming soon. We actually did it earlier, and then I think we're editing it right now. And he lent me the Vertigo. I believe this is like the second or third pressing. I don't know if I want to get this out, but I mean, if I can show it, I'll show it. It does not have the Phillips credit, so it is like a second or third. But this is amazing. And then he also gave me the Black Sabbath Warner Brothers white label promo, to compare. So I got a big shout out to Chris Vinyl Piper. And he also gave me a German Vertigo, which is over there. I did compare. So I compared all four. This was like an insane thing. I'm actually sick of this record. I could not, I don't know. I could listen to that.
Yep.
That's what happens when you're like, I have to listen to every pressing I have. You're like, okay, now I cannot listen to this for 4 years now and be good.
Now, this is something I got to ask the panel. And I think I've already asked Arnaldo. Arnaldo, we actually did I think an early listening, between the Rhino and then what was the other one? The US?
No, we listened to the US and we listened a little bit to the German.
Oh, okay.
No, wait, no, I'm sorry, not the German. The UK.
The UK.
The UK and the US.
So before I even go forward, when I say Black Sabbath, we'll go around the panel. What do you think? When I say Black Sabbath, what kind of music do you think it is?
I mean, I think heavy rock or I don't know, early metal, I guess.
Okay. Brandon, what do you think?
Yeah, it's Black Sabbath is the point where bluesy type hard rock turned to metal.
Okay. David Bianco.
I think quadraphonic version of Paranoid was my first introduction to Black Sabbath. So
really? And did you have Did you have a quad system back then?
I still do. Yes, I still do. Yes.
Oh, nice.
Whoa. And then Arnaldo, what do you think?
Actually, let's give them a second try. Can you describe the music? I know where Jason's going. Can you describe the music with an adjective?
Oh,
well, it's sort of
Paranoid.
gothic almost too.
Huh?
I would say
Paranoid,
gothic too. It's almost like early gothic as well.
Gothic, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, or I would say like dark, as in like horror movie dark.
Yeah, dark, sinister.
Yeah.
Gloomy.
Satan. No.
Yeah.
Butthole surfer.
We'll bleep that out.
So, do you want to keep going, Arnaldo, or should I go with it?
No, you go.
Well, come on, Arnaldo. You're so smart.
No.
What's yours? What's your adjective?
Well, yeah, no, we discussed it already.
He knows.
Okay.
Yeah, Jason and I kind of discussed
I gotcha.
it. So we're leaning towards, if you have to describe it in a certain way, it's going to be maybe sinister, kind of, dark and
Dudley Do Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, this is like a menacing record. I mean, if you look at the cover, there's
exactly,
this
yeah. There you go.
lady here, witch.
Yeah.
This isn't a friendly record. I mean, if you open this up, I I can't see. Chris has these great like sleeves, and I have to like do all these things. But it has like an upside down cross in this record. You know, I can't even imagine if you were a kid and you bought this record and you were trying to hide it from your parents. Like, you did not want them to open this thing up. Yeah, you know, because I mean that thing is serious. You know, and like this was not hippie music. Like, you know, flower power, like clearly not.
Church lady says no Black Sabbath.
That's right. Okay. So now we get to this reissue, right? So this is definitely like a hi-fi audio file, right? You know, you have all the benchmarks here cut, you know, the 180 gram,
blah, 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 blah.
cut from the original analog master tapes by Kevin Gray, pressed at optimal. You know, comes with insert, limited edition 5,000. There we go. Okay. Now, after comparing this against the UK Vertigo, white label promo, German, and then what you guys described, right? Do you think this required like the audiophile treatment? Like, i.e., in my opinion, clarity and balance. Let's go around the panel. What do you think?
This sounds like a thing about Marquee Moon. the rawness of the original versus the basically the purity of what sounds like what's coming out now.
Correct. So I mean, yeah. So it's like a style, right? That's what I'm trying to like. The point, like, did it need this? You know, like.
I would guess no, just in terms of it's not an album, I think, that craves separation and layering and that type of thing. No. It's just that almost like it would take away from it.
No, it craves sales.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Well, it's like I felt the same way about like the remastering or whatever they did with the Hendrix records that came out. Same thing with the Beatles reissues that came out in the last 5 or 10 years or whatever, is that it almost takes you out of that original experience that you have when you listen to those early ones. It's too, anyway, but so to everyone's point, that's how I felt about those. If this is the same way, then I'm a pass.
Well, it happened with Thriller, where the
same thing.
The one step's very clean, and you can appreciate Bruce Swedeen's work and Quincy Jones, but you don't want to dance to it as much as the OG.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it changes the experience. So
even though this had like a lot of hype and great reviews, everyone's raving about it. I mean, this thing is on the secondary market for selling for like 100 or up now.
Wow. 150. Yep.
Right. It's crazy.
FOMO.
But what we just went around and talked about, like, in my opinion, after doing the comparison, and Arnaldo can state his opinion, this never beat the Vertigo. This never did, you know, because the Vertigo was like super menacing. Like, we didn't, you know, I was like, this is really dark music. Like, this is crazy, you know?
Unless it's a bad mix or pressing or whatever, where there's distortion, like sometimes happens on, it's like Velvet Underground and Nico is like, there's distortion just inherent on that tape. And even with Nico's vocals and things like that, maybe if you could clean that up a little, be a little more listenable, or less fatiguing, I guess, but it's not really there on these Sabbaths.
That Rhino has a bit more high end, like more treble. So it's a bit brighter. And what I noticed that when I was doing the comparison with Arnaldo and Chris Final Piper, it was like very fatiguing to go through it, you know?
The reissue.
Yes. The Rhino Hi-Fi reissue. So I felt like, that's too bad, you know? While that original Vertigo that I'm holding up, like, this thing was awesome. You could play this anytime you wanted to, you know?
How did the U.S. white label promo compare? What was its characteristics?
A little bit more detail, probably like a lot more, I think Mazzy called it, it has more balls. It does. So,
really?
Yeah. So it actually, but I mean, in some ways, like, it was sort of like splitting hairs between this and the reissue. But I don't think like the highs were that, you know, heavy on the white label promo. Like, this was cut by Artisan, right?
Right.
So even though like similar splitting hairs, like this, I would say like this was my second pick. Like if you couldn't get the Rhino reissue, like get a green Warner Brothers. You know, you don't have to get the white label promo, but this would be my second choice for sure. You know,
stop flashing that thing. I can't. Have a hard time looking at it. Jeez.
No. But I'm saying, like, if you have like a Warner Brothers brand, and like, I think you're fine. You don't need to.
I was talking about those white label promos. They do it to me.
I know.
Well, like that thing is beautiful.
They are usually given to their top pressing plant for that release that gets the most orders, and the first plant that presses it. So usually it's the top plant that they think at the time will provide that because it's done earlier than the others or released earlier. So, yeah.
That's
Well,
nice.
so let me ask the tough question, Jason.
Sure.
Why make that purchase?
For me, it's more curiosity. That's all.
Yeah.
I like Sabbath. I mean, I was never into them, and then in 2013, I decided, why don't I go? Like at that time, I was going for more country of origin 10 years ago, and I was like buying them for like less than 20 euros a pop. You know, that's when prices were, the dream price, right? And I would get them all from like Europe or the UK, and so then I grew to like. I have more respect for them. Like, and I went to see them live during that last reunion tour, I think in 2015, 16. But like they invented every metal genre. Like this is a doom metal record, Sabotage is more of a speed metal record, right? And I think my favorite, I mean, even though like it's not with Ozzy, like it's Heaven and Hell, like thing. If you track their history, like Ozzy wasn't doing well in Technical Ecstasy or Never Say Die. Like he was failing, Yeah. So when they gave him the boot and they got Dio, it was like, whoa, what the hell's going on here,
I know.
Yeah.
But so I did not.
That's cool. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I'm just like, it's a.
So I mean, it's just curiosity, like to me.
Yeah.
And I love the band, like I appreciate them more than I did when I was younger. But the worst of all the bunch that he sent me was the German Vertigo.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah, it sounded like it was muffled under a blanket, and it was embarrassing. I was like, man, I don't know, and I wasn't sure like if we want to include that in the video, like making that announcement here, like that's probably causing some controversy, I guess.
Well, it is what it is,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I think
it can't all be home runs.
I know it was like funny. I think Arnaldo, we compared like the UK versus the US,
and I was telling you right then and there, in some songs, the difference was more noticeable. That the UK, at least I preferred the UK, right?
Was it a matter of the songs that were more raw versus not as raw, and that's where the difference was? Curious?
Well, it sounded like, I used the term beefier, where the guitars had more substance to them. And I don't want to say that on some tracks, the Rhino was a little thinner. For sure. Overall, it's more balanced. I mean, granted, he was streaming because I don't have those. He was streaming and I was listening on my headphones. So let's take that into account as well. There's no room acoustics, nothing else, and then and that headphones also color music in a specific way. So it may very well be that if I had both copies in my home and I listened to them, I'm come out with a different outcome. But I did notice that, and I've only spun the Rhino twice because I only got it the other day. It sounds more balanced, whereas the UK one is not, I don't want to say more raw. It seems to be a little more in your face, where in some cases, I think it was a little too much in your face. And that's what I said to Jason. We don't know at the time what type of equipment they were using when they mastered this record. If they had different, more updated equipment and the same cutting engineer, the same mastering engineer was doing it 50 years ago, it would sound very much like the Rhino. So we don't know that. That's when we come to like, oh, the whole artist's intent. It's very relative, the artist's intent, because a lot of times the artist did not approve the final master. It was always, remember, they recorded this in like a day, and they didn't even have a record deal at the time. So the record label probably took the tapes and did everything and then just put it out. Back then, I don't think there was artist approval. I don't. They were
nobody at the time.
Exactly, especially for your first record. No one's saying is like, oh, that's how they really wanted it. That's how the engineer really wanted it. No, that's how the label probably wanted it. So we don't know in the end. That's why I like to leave the benefit of the doubt, where maybe it could sound different if it was that same engineer was cutting it on some other equipment. But because we listened to these records for 50 plus years in that same way, anytime we listen to it in a modern way, we'll notice a difference, and we'll kind of like smirk and say, well, that's not how it's supposed to be. That's not how I listened to it for the past 50 years, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it always comes down to this. It's what you like.
Yeah.
So, and we did like the A-B for like 3 songs, I think it was.
The Wizard.
The Wizard and
A Bit of a Finger.
A Bit of a Finger, right. On the Wizard, I think I didn't notice the difference as much as I did on A Bit of a Finger. The Bit of a Finger, I noticed that I preferred the Vertigo.
Well, so let me ask you this, Arnaldo and Jason, because you're making me think of when I did a shootout of Eric Dolphy's Out to Lunch, and I use an OG, classic series, Music Matters 45 RPM, a Japanese press. And like we talked about when we first came on, was just how that tape is just so good that it's almost hard to get it wrong as long as you don't mess with it. But my question is, on the earlier pressings, there's a little more articulation in the high end. Like you'll pick up on some things that were like high end that kind of recede in later reissues, but then the later reissues had a little more bass. So I found myself saying, man, if I could just Frankenstein these, you know what I mean, masters together, you'd have the perfect Out to Lunch. I mean, was there some of that going on? Like, was there pros and cons, or was it across the board, the OG's just better?
No, yeah. According to a couple of songs, it was never one everything, in my opinion, especially when comparing to the US one, because we did also the comparison to the US one. I didn't see, the US did not best, when it did best the Rhino as much as the UK copy bested the Rhino when it bested it. If I had $350 and I wanted to spend that money for the Vertigo, maybe I would. I have come across it.
I mean, there's a reason why the Vertigo's worth a lot now.
Right.
You know, when you hear it, anyone on the panel, if you want, we can do a session sometime and we'll listen. But you need to have like over-the-ear headphones. We cannot do AirPods.
Yeah. No,
Even with the computer speakers.
Right, we cannot. I mean, it's better you just do a deep listen, and you can see how I compare it. So, and to back up, I compare the record like with these turntables. So one record is 5 seconds ahead of the other one, right? So then you hear first, and then hearing, the same thing repeated, so it's fresh in your mind.
That's what I do.
I forgot to ask you, Jason, do you have the same cartridge?
Same cartridge on both.
You have to. Cartridge makes the most difference.
Yeah, that's hardcore too. It's like I don't have a mono cartridge to listen to my mono records. I don't have I have a Shibata stylus, which was originally designed for like quad
CD4.
So, yeah, it sucks out a lot of a lot of the a lot of the groove, which is good. But
groove,
I don't mess around with switching stylus and all that stuff.
It's a groovy stylus.
All right, well, that kind of segues us into this. I hope you guys have fun with this. I put a little something together here. So, smash or pass. And when I said this to Chance, he was like, "What?" And it's I thought that was like a common knowledge. Like it's sort of like, would you smash this or are you going to pass on it? So, it's hot or not, yes or no, good or bad kind of a thing. And so I picked some of the recent reissues and then some upcoming, some that are pre-selling now. And I thought we could each go around and say smash or pass. So let me throw this up here real quick. Boom. Sorry for the ad. This is going to make everyone want to go out and buy a hybrid. So yeah, let's just start. We just talked about it. That's why this is a good segue. So where do we put, gosh, that's tiny. But so where do we put this then? And maybe this, everybody except myself and the Hall of Famer are not, I guess have picked this up. But Brandon, you're happy with your pressing?
Yeah, unless someone gave me that as a gift, I'm going to pass. I'm not going to go drop 60, 70, $80 on it. No.
So Arnaldo and Jason, are you guys passes even though you picked it up? What do you think? I mean, now is this something you're going to spin or?
Now that you know what you know.
Now that you know what you know.
I'm still with the smash.
Oh, you're still smash. Okay.
Okay.
Jason?
I bought it, so I'm going to be honest here. I'm honest, right? I'm going to flip this thing,
Okay.
I'm going to flip it because it did not compare, in my opinion, even though it did try. I give the B for the attempt, so I'm passing on
But
this.
you borrowed several of your copies, right?
Yes.
So which one do you have?
I actually own the Vertigo.
You actually own, okay, I thought Chris loaned that to you. Okay.
But he did send me, but he did send me his copy of the Vertigo.
Okay.
Like mine is in storage.
Yeah. Well, he's
with
going to
Indiana
flip it, so there you go.
He's a pass. And David, the verdict's out, right? We're going to see if you ever get yours. Maybe we can talk about it in the future.
Yeah, I got here. And let me be real honest. So I bought it to compare it for a shootout. Obviously, everybody and their dog is doing one before I get mine. So worthless.
No.
But you should have got yours first.
That's okay. But my point is,
your opinion still matters, David. So
well, I appreciate that. But I did buy two, and the reason is I want to find somebody who didn't get it, who wanted it badly, that I can sell it to for list price.
There you go.
In the VC.
That's a hero of the VC up here.
VC hero right there.
Yep.
All right. So I think we're in the middle on that. We got some smashes and some passes. So next up, let me just get to the right place here so I know what these are. Okay. So Monastic Trio just came out. Verve by Request series. And I know I'm bringing up some jazz here, and I know we don't have all jazz heads in the panel, but Alice Coltrane, her stuff has been difficult to get, the reissues, and so it's always nice for people like me when they reissue some of this stuff. Are you guys smash or pass on this? Are you guys planning on picking this one up? Or have you picked it up?
No.
Is it a third man pressing?
I don't know.
It's
so actually June. Request. This comes out tomorrow, actually. Yeah, it's Verve by Request.
Has to be.
I'm going to leave it in the maybe. I'll read the reviews on how it sounds.
Yeah, very wise.
That's exactly what I was going to put. It was in a maybe.
Pressing.
Anyone else? David, Jason?
It's in a maybe for me too.
Maybe for you. Okay.
It's a pass. I own the original.
Okay.
Okay. See?
Rub it in our face, Jason.
I know. I don't know. Like, it's those vinyl by request. Like, I know most people don't have the original. They can't compare it. They don't have my setup, but I understand. Like, that's the original.
He's not flexing, by the way.
No, I'm not going to show it. I actually tried to find it downstairs. I was like, I guess I don't have it. I guess it's in storage. Like, wow. But I like those. I don't know if it's pressed at third man, then you're getting a 50-50, right? If it's going to be.
Yeah, I don't have that information right in front of me.
I have the first one that they did, Pata of the Ode.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I had to get a replacement because it didn't sound very good.
Oh, really?
And I think actually it had lip warp on it too, so that's why I'm approaching with caution.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
but I mean the original selling for over what, 150?
Oh, I've never seen that cover anywhere.
Really?
Like, I've never seen that.
Okay. So I mean, like, this is, I mean, to go back to our first topic, like, this is a good reason to get the reissue, right? Like, it's going to be affordable, you know?
Right.
Sure.
But then you get to that other thing, if it's going to sound good or not, you know? So then now you're entering what I call like, VC reissue fallacy, right? Like, you had it, this is all you can hear. So, you know, if it sounds good, then it sounds good to you, you know?
Right.
Yeah, same thing with Tom of the Eldel. Like, I wouldn't have got an original of that, but I enjoy the reissue, so I'm happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Come to Texas. We'll have a good time.
I'm
Listen
planning
to
to,
the-
man. You guys have all the fun in Texas.
There you go.
So I don't know how many are interested in Blue Note Classic series, but I always have my eye on them. But I thought this was interesting. So in June, they occasionally will put out a record that isn't well known from the 50s or 60s, or even a 70s record, which they tend to kind of be in their wheelhouse. This month, they're actually doing an Aaron Parks record, Invisible Cinema, which was released in 2008. And then they're doing Jason Moran, his album 10 from 2010. So I thought, these aren't classics, or are they? I think it's kind of another discussion. Like, can we call a 2008 record a classic? Or I don't know if you guys have any interest in these. I'm going to pass on both of these, but
Pass.
Yeah,
Pass,
I'm
pass,
not even
pass.
familiar with those two actually, so
No,
I guess
me
I'll have
either.
to pass for now.
okay, gotcha. Jason Moran's good, but yeah, at the same time, it's like, these aren't classics. All right. So what about these $60 pre-orders for Yes Records? And I think this is a good discussion we've kind of had before, which is, you know, when an OG is pretty readily available at a very affordable price, how eager, and I know some of us do, but are you guys smash or pass on these? And are you guys aware of these these are Analog Productions, the Yes albums that are coming out. They're being pre-ordered right now.
Smash.
You're smashing, all right?
Yeah, I'm a subscriber, and everyone has impressed me.
Okay.
So I mean, they're in the dog in the litter on this one. I mean, they have all been really strong.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
Yeah, I've just gotten into Analog Productions, and that's one of the only pressings of, like you said, a common album that you'll find for $10 or $15 anywhere that I would go to Analog Productions and grab. So if I can get my hands on this, yes, I'd grab. I'm going to smash.
Okay. Couple smashes. Anyone else?
I'm going to pass for now. I have an original pressing.
Well,
I
the
don't
Yes
love-
album, the
I
Yes
don't
album
love-
is the
I
one
don't-
shipping.
I
today.
don't love that one that much to, get the double 45.
And I didn't put all the titles in here, but I think there's like 3 of them that are, like David said, one shipping
Yes.
today. There's like 2 other ones upcoming.
Right.
Now that's probably the only one I would get. Oh, that's the only one I would smash.
Owner of a Lonely Heart, baby.
Yeah.
Love that
Yeah.
song. Well, so David, let me ask you then. So is it that obviously you haven't heard it yet, but the ones you have heard are impressive enough to go ahead and get a reissue then?
Yeah, I mean, I did a review on 90125,
Okay.
and it beat the UK and it beat the US. And
Wow.
And so now the Yes album I'll get probably tomorrow, and we'll see how that one does. But we did a triple shootout on the Yes album, Close to the Edge, and Fragile on with the 2 other guys. One of them being the Pressing Matter Scott. And so we're going to go now, and the guy that did the Yes album, he's going to do this one to the winner that won the first shootout. So we kind of got a thing going on it.
I might leave that in Smash then. Okay. How about, let's see, we got Alice Coltrane's Eternity. Back to Alice Coltrane. Now, a few of 4 of these are Vinyl Me Please records. Alice Coltrane getting another reissue. Vinyl Me Please. Or this one just came out in May. Any interest in this Alice Coltrane for anyone? This is...
I got it.
You got Eternity, yeah.
Yes.
You got one, okay. How is it? Have you spun it yet?
No, I wasted too much time with Sabbath.
That's quite a change from Sabbath.
I know.
Yeah, you need a little break now.
Yeah, for
Anyone
me,
else?
that's an Alice Coltrane. I mean, not familiar with that album at all. So I guess it's going to be a pass since I don't even know it yet.
I got it.
Arnaldo picked it up. Okay.
And I had to submit a request because the first copy I got did not sound good. There was tons of crackling and non-fill in it. But the mastering, I don't have an original. I'm perfectly happy with it. A lot of the percussion that is on here, it seems like they were playing in my room. And the soundstage was really nice. I really felt the presence of the music. So for me, it was, now that I have a second copy that actually sounds good in terms of pressing, I'm happy with it.
Very nice.
Nice.
Yeah, when I was out with Chance, we actually saw a copy of this. I don't know if it was an OG or what, but I didn't recognize that cover either. And I've seen a fair amount of Alice Coltrane, but this one was new to me too. So, all right. How about one of the big ones? Here's Little Richard right here. Again, Vinyl Me Please came out in May. Did anyone pick this up?
I got it.
Arnaldo's all over it.
Well, because I'm subscribed to Vinyl Me Please.
I was going to say, so, yeah, some of you guys are subscribed.
So, no, and the reason why I got it is because every time I see one that's used, it's always beat up. It's like it's played to death, and I've never found a copy that actually looks playable. So I think for me, that's as good as it gets until maybe I find an original. And that one too, I don't know how much better it's going to sound in an original because it's a 1957 or 56 recording. So it's not an audiophile recording.
Right.
Right.
Well, like someone said earlier, it's like trying to make a Charlie Parker or audiophile pressings of Charlie Parker or something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Someone in the comment section mentioned that. All right. So, okay. I'm going to honestly, I think that is a smash. If it's a good, nice, clean copy. And some of this, the other problem though, I'll say, Arnaldo, is that like on some of these older records, when you get them, a new reissue, same thing that we talked about earlier, it's almost can be cleaned up too much and it'll take you out of the experience. You didn't really get that from this one?
No, it sounds like a record from 1956.
Okay.
In terms of sound, they did. I don't know how it was recorded. It was probably, I think it's actually mono, right? Is it a mono? I believe it's the mono version, right?
Probably.
Yeah, and I think they were bouncing tracks from one another because they were probably recording on, I don't know, David, maybe you can help, on a 2-track.
Yeah.
So it's not like they had this great hi-fi technology where they're, the instruments in the end sounded a little bit glued together.
Yep.
And you always have, because back then what mattered was what you heard through the AM radio, and it's usually the voice that comes out. And that's what Little Richard was about a lot, mostly, is his voice that really jumps out at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wanted to be the center of attention. Let's know.
And
He is the center of attention here,
Oh, okay. It's got to be an OG, right?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't even have to ask.
So, Jason, did you get the Vinyl Me Please version or not?
No, it was sold out.
Oh, it was sold out.
Oh, it's sold out.
So you did have the curiosity.
Yeah, I did, but I was too late. I did the switch too late, So now, I did have the MoFi at one point.
MoFi did that?
Yeah, it was like in the early 2000s, I think. And the MoFi never beat the original, It didn't because it was like really cut at a lower noise floor level. So you really had to crank it, and then it sounded really muffled. And then I was like, that's sad, because this record should jump out at you. Here's Little Richard. If you see the cover, the guy he's happy. He's shouting to you, Like, you can't have this album sound like it's underwater, Yep.
All right. How about anyone so here's a couple of June releases. How about Isaac Hayes' Black Moses? Anyone going for this one?
I opted for that, yes.
Same here.
All right.
Yeah.
Smashing. And how about?
And I also smashed the T-Rex.
And the T-Rex is smashed as well.
Are you familiar with that record?
Am I?
Or anyone on the panel, are you familiar with that T-Rex record?
Yeah, I actually played it before I opted for it. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, that's the first record where they rock out, you know? It's still like a little bit acoustic folk, but now they're getting into that electric. I can't remember the song. Is it the White Swan is on the record?
Yeah.
And that is like the beginning of him picking, Mark Bolan of T-Rex picking up the electric guitar and rocking out, you know?
Yeah.
And then last but not least, and I don't know, I thought this was the big one. So this was, and maybe controversial, I don't know. So they're doing the Bruce Springsteen. This one's the Wild Innocent and the E Street Shuffle, 180 gram, 33 RPM, super vinyl, et cetera, et cetera. $100 or more, and then it's from a DSD, right? And I don't know how many of these are from DSD, but I'm thinking this will kind of segue into another question. I actually forgot to put it on here, but anyone planning to get this?
Pass.
Nope.
Yeah, definitely a pass.
Okay.
Matter of fact, almost any early Bruce reissues are a pass for me.
Do you like Bruce Springsteen?
I love Bruce Springsteen. I mean, he's amazing, but it's just, I don't get the magic of those first three or so albums. I really don't.
Oh, that's a great album.
Are you gonna grab it, Arnaldo?
And I have the box set, you know, the Plangent Process one.
Yeah.
But that actually, that album is better recorded and better sounding than Born to Run.
Well,
in my opinion,
most records are better sounding than Born to Run. To be honest, you know, great album and content, but man, the recording just was weaker now.
All right. Oh, go ahead, Brandon.
Oh no, I was just gonna kind of putting a comment on there. It's just something about that early Bruce. It's a little too chaotic for me. It just seems like the pieces just don't quite fit in the way the songs are delivered for whatever reason. That's the way I experience
He's trying to find himself, I do.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite Springsteen then? I'm curious. Like if you didn't like the first three, what do you go for?
Are you talking about mid Springsteen or later? Well, my absolute favorite album by Springsteen is Western Stars.
Okay. I think you mentioned this before. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That album is just amazing, which is basically kind of the second version of Nebraska, basically. But yeah, that's probably my favorite Springsteen album right now.
I got to make a note of that. I remember you did mention that one last time you showed it. So yeah.
Yeah.
All righty then. Well, I think we're about done with the
we're at the hour
podcast proper, and man, exactly at the hour. Pretty amazing right there. And for the podcast listeners, thanks for joining, and we will see you next time.
And that was another trip around the turntable. Thanks for listening to Vinyl Community Podcasts.